Floyd Collins loved exploring caves. He died on February 13, 1925, while stuck in a narrow cave passage in Sand Cave in Kentucky. How did a simple cave exploration turn into such a sad story that got attention all across America? Let's look at what happened to Floyd Collins on his last underground adventure. Floyd was born in 1887 near Mammoth Cave in Kentucky. From a very young age, he was really interested in many caves in this area. As he got older, he spent more and more time looking for caves. He hoped to find a cave that would become a tourist attraction and profit from it. In January 1925, Floyd made a deal with some travelers who owned land near him. He said he would look for caves on their land. If they found a good one, they would share the money they could make from tourists. Because of this deal, Floyd started exploring a small hole in their land. This hole would later be called Sand Cave. For several weeks, Floyd worked hard to make the narrow passages in Sand Cave bigger. He squeezed through very tight spaces, some only 9 inches tall. He was sure that there was a big cave room further in. He was determined to find a cave that could be as famous as Mammoth Cave and make him rich. On January 30th, 1925, Floyd entered Sand Cave for the first time. He had been working for hours when his lamp started to get dim. This meant it was running out of fuel. Floyd was worried about being left in the dark, so he headed out of the cave. Something terrible happened as he hurried through a very tight passage about 55 feet underground. Floyd accidentally knocked over his lamp. Suddenly, he was in complete darkness. In the dark, he stepped in the wrong place, which made the cave walls shift. Then a big rock weighing 26.5 pounds fell from the ceiling. It trapped Floyd's left leg. To make things even worse, loose gravel and rocks fell down as well, partially burying him. Floyd was now in a terrible situation. He was stuck in a narrow passage and his legs were trapped under a very heavy rock. He had no light and he couldn't free himself. The cave was very cold and his clothes were wet, which meant he could get dangerously cold. Even though things were terrible, Floyd didn't panic. He hoped someone would notice he was missing and come to find him. It wasn't until the next day that people started to worry about Floyd. When they realized he hadn't returned, they formed a search party. When they got to Sand Cave, they could hear Floyd's voice from deep inside. He was alive, but they couldn't reach him through the narrow tunnel. News about Floyd's trap spread quickly. Within a few days, people all over the country talked about the cave explorers stuck underground. Reporters came from all over. Radio stations gave regular updates about the rescue efforts. And people immediately tried to rescue Floyd, but the cave's narrow passages made it very difficult. Floyd's younger brother, Homer, was one of the few small enough to squeeze through the tight spaces to reach Floyd. He brought food and water to help keep his brother alive. As days went by, more people joined the rescue effort. A very small reporter named William Skeets Miller managed to reach Floyd. He talked to Floyd inside the cave and wrote about what Floyd said. People across the country were very interested in Miller's stories about Floyd. Later, Miller won a big prize for his reporting. The rescuers tried different ways to free Floyd. One time they tried using a harness to pull him out, but this only hurt Floyd more and almost injured him worse. They realized they would need to remove the rocks around Floyd individually to free him. To help Floyd feel better, the rescuers ran an electric light down to him. This gave him some light and a little warmth, but all the people coming to watch were causing problems. They lit campfires to stay warm, and the heat from these fires melted the cave's natural ice. This caused water to collect around Floyd, making him even colder. On February 4th, something really bad happened. The cave passage collapsed into 2 places, meaning rescuers couldn't get to Floyd directly anymore. The rescue leaders were more worried about the cave collapsing. They decided it was too dangerous to keep trying to reach Floyd through the original passage. Instead, they decided to dig a straight down hole to try to reach the cave behind where Floyd was stuck. This new plan was tough. They needed to dig a hole 55 feet deep. They had to dig it all by hand because machines would fill the cave with dangerous fumes that could hurt Floyd. A team of 75 volunteers worked day and night using pickaxes and shovels to dig through the earth slowly. The work was very difficult and dangerous. As they dug deeper, the hole got narrower. Soon, only 2 men could work at a time. When they hit solid rock, it got even more challenging to dig. But the rescuers kept working, hoping they would save Floyd. Floyd had been trapped in the dark, wet cave all this time. He was in pain, hungry, and very cold. But he never gave up hope. As more days passed, Floyd's condition got worse. The cold and wet were hurting him. Rescuers could only give him a little food and water through the narrow passages, but Floyd kept fighting to stay alive, knowing people were working hard to save him. On February 11th, the rescuers noticed Floyd's light bulb had gone out. This was very worrying because they had no other way to check in on him. The race to save Floyd became even more desperate. Finally, on February 16th, after more than 2 weeks of non-stop work, the rescue shaft broke through the cave passage. A miner named Ed Brenner was the first to reach Floyd, but he brought back unfortunate news. Floyd Collins was cold and dead. A small team, including Floyd's friend Johnny Gerald, went into the tunnel to check. They found Floyd's body partially buried in cave debris. Doctors who looked at him thought that he had died 3 to 5 days earlier, probably on February 13th. The news that Floyd had died shocked people all across the country. People had been following the rescue attempts for over 2 weeks, hoping Floyd would be saved. The sad ending upset many people, even though they had never met Floyd. Floyd's body was left in the cave while funeral services were held above ground. His brother Homer wasn't happy about leaving Floyd buried in a sand cave. 2 months later, Homer and some friends dug into the cave again. On April 23rd, 1925, they successfully got Floyd's body out of the cave. But Floyd Collins' story didn't end there. At first, his body was buried on his family's land near the entrance of Crystal Cave, which Floyd had discovered years before. But in 1927, the new landowner did something many thought was wrong. He put Floyd's body in a coffin with a glass top and showed it to the tourists in Crystal Cave. This went on for years until something shocking happened in 1929. Someone stole Floyd's body from the cave. It was found later in a nearby field, but Floyd's left leg was missing. After this, they kept the remains in a locked coffin in a hidden part of the cave. Finally, in 1989, Floyd Collins' body was properly buried. The Collins family asked the National Park Service to bury Floyd in the Mammoth Cave Baptist Church Cemetery. It took 15 men 3 days to get the coffin and tombstone out of Crystal Cave and give Floyd his final resting place. The story of Floyd Collins' death became one of the biggest news stories of all time. It was the third most talked about event between the 2 world wars. Why did so many people care about this story? Maybe it was because everyone can imagine how scary it would be to be trapped alone in a dark cave. Or maybe it was because of the exciting rescue attempt with moments of hope and sadness. This story had all the parts of a gripping tale: bravery, hard work, tragedy, and the strength of the human spirit when facing big challenges. In 1925, the radio became popular and newspapers became the main source of information. The story of Floyd Collins also reminds us how different life was in the 1920s. There was no advanced rescue equipment, cave cameras, or high-tech communication devices. In many ways, the technology available differed significantly from what cave explorers had used for centuries. Floyd's story also highlights the cave wars in Kentucky. Many cave owners were competing to attract tourists to their caves. This competition sometimes led people to take risks, exploring and developing new caves in hopes of striking rich with a popular tourist attraction. Floyd was a part of the competitive atmosphere, always searching for the subsequent significant cave discovery. Floyd Collins' story is a unique American tale. It combines elements of frontier spirit, media sensation, tragedy, and the complex relationship between humans and nature. Thanks for watching this tale of cave exploration gone wrong. If you like discovering Floyd Collins' tragic story, subscribe for more fascinating historical accounts. And remember, leave a comment below sharing your thoughts on this incredible piece of American history. Stay curious and stay safe. We'll see you in the next video.